Good evening, dear friends. I hope the sound is all right. If it's not all right, give a message in the chat comments. Yesterday, Bhante Sujata was speaking, or day before yesterday, Bhante Sujata was speaking about the Samadhi Sutta, and he brought out the 4 nutriments. These are nutriments for the maintaining of being, for those who have already come to be, and for the support of those who are about to come to be. Physical food, contact, mental volition, and consciousness. He spoke about the idea that we may choose what kind of nutriments we take on board, whether we take, for example, with food, if we consume junk food, or if we consume poison that could ruin our health or even take our life. But if we take healthy, good food, that could create a healthy existence of the life to support progress on the path. So then it gave me the idea of bringing out a different sutra about nutriment that is particularly focused on the nourishment for the unskillful qualities of the 5 hindrances and the skillful qualities of the 7 bojjhangas. So this is further developing the idea of bringing up, learning how to nourish the wholesome factors and denourish the negative factors. So we can give a respect to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang namasami. So the sutta for tonight is called Nutriment, or in Pali, Āhārasutta. It's in the Connected Discourses, in the section which is about the factors of enlightenment. It's number 4651 in the Connected Discourses. I'm just going to go right into the sutta. Without any specific comment about the situation or the circumstances of this teaching, at Savatthi, the Buddha said, because I will teach you the nutriment and denourishment in regard to the 5 hindrances and the 7 factors of enlightenment. Listen. Then we come to the 5 hindrances. What is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen sensual desire, for the increase and expansion of arisen sensual desire? There is, bhikkhus, the sign of the beautiful. Frequently giving careless attention to it is the nutriment for the hindrance of sensual desire. For beautiful, the Pali is subha, and it is not necessarily true that something which is subha or beautiful is something good or wholesome, or that the subha is something that's bad or unwholesome. So a perfectly ripe, unblemished tomato on the vine is subha, but it's not unwholesome by itself. Seeing beautiful, attractive person is, if they're a complete, or even if they're not complete, seeing a person who's attractive in whatever way, they could be attractive because of your attitude towards them. It could be a person with a beautiful body with the right proportions, who's young and not yet gotten any illnesses and so on. Or it could be that somebody who's old and gray, who has a lot of wrinkles and gray hair or lost their hair, that because of something that you see in them, or because of the mark of wisdom or the respect for old age, that you could look at that elderly person and see them also as being subha, as being beautiful, right? So that's a very somewhat arbitrary, but when we encounter something that's likable, lovable, delightful, there is the danger of it could cause greed, because you want to get it and keep it. You want to eat that ripe tomato. It could cause suffering, because you wish that beautiful young person would always be beautiful and young, but they can't. So you feel the pain of impermanence. It could cause different kinds of delusion, different kinds of obsessions of the mind. In other words, this danger of sensual desire can come about depending on whether you have the right attitude when you see them. And so what's described there as careless attention, that's called ayoniso manasikara. So manasikara is how you direct the mind, or where you place the awareness, and yoniso is a reference to looking more deeply. So if you look deeply at any kind of phenomenon, whether it be something that's likable or something that's not likable, what would you see? If you look deeply, you would see it's impermanent. If it's a conditioned thing, you would see that it's unsatisfactory, and you would see that it's impersonal, that it doesn't have an ultimate eternal essence, and that it's not something that is suitable to be taken on as something that which is me or mine, not to be identified with, and not to be owned. So if you see the tomato in the store, and you grab the tomato before someone else can get it and say, "My tomato," then you have made it mine. Or if it's the tomato that you grew in your own garden, and you feel so proud because you have grown, nourished, and cultivated and made this perfect tomato, and you say, my tomato, give me a blue ribbon. I've got the best tomato. So those are, examples of careless attention. So what you think about again and again becomes the tendency of the mind, the inclination of the mind. So if you spend your time thinking again and again in these foolish ways about beautiful things, then you are setting yourself up to experience the hindrance of sensual desire. The hindrances are, in particular, the factors that are the most important when you are coming to the meditation cushion and making the transition from your daily life to meditation, setting the mind up for meditation. So it's said in many places that in the gradual training, that after having cultivated a morality, restraint of the senses, contentment, and experiencing the gladness in the mind that comes from having right view and good sila, that then a person would be able to sit down for meditation and abandon the 5 hindrances and enter into deeper meditation. But if they sit down and they're not able to go into deep meditation because they're troubled by hindrances, then they may look back. They're in the cushion. All you can do is just notice what you've got and be mindfully aware this is what's arising for me, and see if it's possible to abandon those hindrances at that time. And if you can, good. And if you're not able to abandon them right at that time during that particular sit of meditation, then you'll have to make the hindrances themselves the object of contemplation and be mindfully aware of what it's going like when the hindrances are present, seeing whether the hindrances are permanent or impermanent, seeing whether they are self or not self. But if you drop back a step and you realize that throughout the day that you've been giving wise attention to the sign of the beautiful, you'll be much more likely to be able to prevent the arising of that sensual desire, hindrance in meditation. The next one, what bhikkhus is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen ill will, increasing and expansion of arisen ill will? And this is called the sign of the repulsive. That's a patika. It has a very broad meaning. It could mean something that's ugly, something that's disgusting, something that's difficult, something that's associated with conflict. So seeing a ghost or seeing a snake could be frightened. You've got a visceral reaction to that. That's a patika. Smelling something which is rotten, that makes you want to feel like you're going to gag because that reflux comes up. That's a patika. Seeing something which is morally repulsive, like if you see somebody doing something unskillful, or hear about somebody doing something unskillful and you have a reaction to that, that's patika. And in particular, one kind of patika that's a special danger for people who already are trying to be good is if you have got a strong view, a strong opinion that things ought to be a certain way. And if you're unwise about how you hold it, then you might be have a reaction, an unpleasant reaction of dislike. So if I'm sitting here, I can see the books on the other side of this room. If I have an idea that the books should all be straight, but some of them are crooked, and I guess, I could get a frowny face because why are the books crooked? and in many different ways. So in this case, the unpleasant feeling that arises could cause somebody to have several different kinds of unskillful reaction to the unpleasant feeling. One common reaction for an ignorant person who never thought about it is that they will quickly try to cover up the unpleasant feeling with a pleasant feeling. So seeing something unpleasant, they might pull out their phone and start scrolling through their phone, looking at something on their phone that's entertaining or amusing, or feeling worried and stressful about the day at work. One might stop at a bar at the end of the day and have a drink to assuage the stress of the job with a pleasant feeling of having a little party after work. So that's a way of giving careless attention. And then the other way that's very common, careless attention to unpleasant, the sign of the repulsive, is for the mind to become obsessed with that thing. This is natural, but it's not wise. So if that thought takes hold of the mind, grabs hold of the mind, and you keep thinking, so-and-so always does that to me, and telling that story, proliferating that story, that's also unwise attention, careless attention to the sign of the repulsive. And actually, within how you've been living your day, so if you spend the day getting involved in different conflicts and disagreements and getting wrought up about it, it could be very difficult to sit for meditation at the end of the day. Or then if within the meditation, this unpleasant memory or even a pleasant recollection comes up and the mind starts to get triggered and to become drifting away from the theme of the meditation, then if you know how to see, I told you already, see it by the 3 marks, that it's impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. Another way to see these signs skillfully is to pay attention to the feeling that's coming along, and with the wisdom that a feeling is just a feeling. So if you see or feel or remember something pleasant, or if you see, feel, or remember something unpleasant, and you notice the feeling as a feeling, and it's just a feeling. A feeling is just a feeling. It doesn't have to proliferate into something that becomes a hindrance. Just let it be a feeling. A feeling is there. It has its moment, and then it's finished. Then we come to sloth and torpor. What's the nutriment for rising of unarisen sloth and torpor? Increase and expansion of arisen sloth and torpor. And the nutriments are said to be discontent, lethargy, lazy stretching, drowsiness after meals, and sluggishness of the mind. So you might think that these moods are things that you can't really help when it arises. Like if you didn't get enough sleep, then of course you would feel sleepy. And so what to do about it? You can't do anything except to remember to get enough sleep the next time. But actually, there is a way that having certain habits that if you believe that you need a lot of rest, and because of that, you take a lot of rest, and because you take a lot of rest, the body becomes more weak, and because the body is more weak, then you feel increasingly like you need a lot of rest. The idea that discontent or boredom can make a person feel sleepy, I think, is such a sharp observation. I don't know if you've noticed this before, but I have a personal story about boredom. When I was so much younger, whenever my little brother and I used to very often go together to visit our parents, and my mother was a sociable person. She had many friends, and she liked to tell us all the news about what was going on with her various friends, and also to tell us everything that was going on with all of our distant relatives. And I didn't mind it that much, but my little brother hated those conversations. He hated it. And because of his discontent, he would come home, say, "Hi, Mom," sit in a chair, conversation begins, and right away, he'd go to sleep because it was a way of blocking off something unpleasant. So there are a lot of negative habits of the mind that if you don't know how to manage with stress, you can have habits of mind that cause your mind to be stressful, and when your mind is stressful, that's really tiresome. And if your mind is exhausted because of those stressful habits, and then if you don't see the danger in laziness, and you give into it and let the mind be sluggish and lazy, take a nap after the meal and so on like that, then it feeds and the body and mind become weaker and weaker. So careless attention here is a sense of maybe a different aspect than what I said before about when I said about feeling, and I said about seeing the three marks of existence or failure to see them as two ways of careless attention. So this a different kind of careless attention is if you have a wrong view or a wrong belief, or if you don't see the danger. So if you don't see the danger in having the mind be lazy, having the mind be sluggish, then you will just let it be sluggish. But if you've been practicing mindfulness and you have the desire to become more mindful, then you would see that the sluggish mind is sort of the opposite of remembering to be mindful. And so you would see the danger in a sluggish mind. And so then you would try to overcome it because you see the danger. So that's another aspect of wise attention. Next, we have restlessness and remorse. And in this case, the description is perhaps less obvious. It says that the unsettled mind, if there's an unsettled mind, so it says in the commentaries that restlessness is associated with worrying about the future, And remorse is associated with worrying about the past. And so the unsettled mind, in that sense, is the mind that is not able to come to meditation and connect with the present moment, connecting with the here and now, letting go of the past and the future, and just making the determination to stay within the corral, within the boundary of what's arising in the present moment. And so a mind which is lost in worrying about the past or lost in remorse about the past is a mind that's not able to settle into the present moment. So that ability to settle would be a way of not allowing restlessness and remorse to disturb the meditation. Elsewhere in our discussions about the gradual training, when we spoke about the cultivation of virtue and the realizing that we can recall our efforts to keep a good morality, that then happiness and joy can arise to the extent that we've been successful. So by making the effort, somebody who's a small child or somebody who never learned how to be good, they could find it extremely difficult. It could be a struggle, hour by hour, minute by minute, to avoid losing one's temper or picking up a drink or doing some other unskillful thing. I'll say I'm talking to everybody. Feeding your internet addiction. That's the biggest addiction that is growing in the world right now. That people are addicted to the internet. If you if you're addicted to something unskillful, when you try to come out of it, then it's not easy to do, and you could slip. But if you are taking a constructive approach, and each time you slip, you try to, make amends and keep trying again and again until gradually you build up the muscle of having the agency of being able to make those ethical choices of choosing to do what is skillful and beneficial for your own mind. The next one on the hindrances side is the doubt, and there are different levels of doubt, skeptical doubt. If you don't have confidence that this type of meditation practice is beneficial, and or you're not sure that you're in the right school, in the right place, maybe I ought to try Zen, maybe I should try Tibetan, maybe I should try Christian meditation, maybe I should try some other meditation. If you can't decide what practice you're going to do, then that can make it difficult to settle. If you have doubts about this entire path, if you don't really think that there was a person who came to be called the Buddha, who discovered the way to the end of dukkha, and was able to manifest that and explain it to the world. If you don't believe that the teachings are teachings that are onward leading, that can lead one to awakening, if you don't believe that there is any such thing as a virtuous Sangha, which is practicing in this way, which is actually realizing the fruit of this Dhamma, well, if you don't believe that, it's going to be pretty hard for you to practice, isn't it? Like, even if you believe that maybe once there was a Buddha and once there was a Dhamma, but now the Sangha is completely corrupted and the Dhamma that's passed down to us is completely corrupted, and so we don't know anymore what the path is, it's going to be pretty hard for you to practice meditation. So that's one side. But then even somebody who's got good confidence, if you don't have enough faith, if you doubt yourself, if you feel that you are not worthy of getting the benefit of meditation, if you feel that you don't deserve happiness, if you feel you don't deserve awakening, then that can also make it very difficult to practice. So don't give careless attention to these kinds of doubts. Try to be practical and simple and give enough common sense assessment of the teachers that you have access to or the teachings that you have access to, and say, as far as I'm able to understand it, is this helpful or not? And if it seems to be reasonable, then try it out. And if you get some benefit from it, then you say, okay, so this is good enough for now, even though I don't understand the whole path, or I don't understand all the parts of it, or I have not personally experienced my past lives or something like that. Nevertheless, having enough confidence to go ahead with the practice. That's the amount that you need at this point. The complete confidence comes really almost at the very end, when one has realized the full fruit of this practice. Then all doubts are erased. So I've talked for 30 minutes about the nutriments for the hindrances. I'm just going to glance briefly at questions. I welcome Gregory, Jonica, Elaine, Manal, Lydia, Richard. Richard asking, I understand Yoni Manasika solely in a theoretical way. That is about going in instead of going out of the asavas. How to understand them in terms of practice. Perhaps the definition of the Dhamma that the Buddha gave his stepmother, that the Dhamma is about apicca, seclusion, contentment, viraga, unyoking, energy dispersal, being unburdensome. There are many different sets of teaching, and the ones that you're able to get a hold of, that you're able to understand well enough, and that you're able to make use of, can be your yoniso manasikara, your way of attending to your experiences. So, and all of them are different aspects of giving wise attention to experiences and the signs that come along. So I suggested that for example, considering the 3 marks of existence is a way to pull yourself out of the unskillful attention, which is seeing the impermanent as permanent, seeing the unpleasant as the painful as being not painful, seeing the impersonal as being personal. So that set of opposites is a type of ayoniso and yoniso, or in terms of the nutriment of ill will. I mentioned letting a Vedana be just a Vedana, like in the advice to Bahia, letting each mental factor be what it is without letting it to proliferate. So a feeling is just a feeling, a thought is just a thought, just seeing it in a simple way as it is. That's a good cure for the kind of unskillful attention that makes a mistake about causation and thinks that some ugly object has caused the aversion to arise, and the belief that then you have to do something about the unpleasant object in order to get rid of the aversion, something like that. And so there's actually, in my opinion, Yoniso Manasikara is a pretty broad field. I would say that in terms of the teaching about stream entry, the Buddha said that the proximate conditions for stream entry include showing up for the teachers, listening to the Dhamma, and Yoniso Manasikara, and practicing the teachings of the Dhamma in accord with the Dhamma. So I believe that gives a very good clue about what the fundamental meaning of Yoniso Manasikara is, that you would have come into the presence of the Dhamma, of the teaching, and beyond simply considering it in some kind of abstract intellectual way, or considering the teachings in a superficial way. Instead, you would look deeply within yourself and see how these teachings can be tested to see whether they manifest in our own personal experiences. And then if you synthesize and make the Dhamma your own through giving wise attention by looking within, that will be creating a very important condition for progress in the path. And then the opposite of that, I'm taking the word yoni to mean the base or the foundation, the matrix of causation. So ayoni is just staying on the surface, just considering things in a superficial way, not looking never looking more deeply, and not looking within, like just paying attention to objects without ever examining ourselves. That's a kind of a superficial way. So that's that. I think I might just stay tonight just on the hindrances, because I see some excellent questions. Would I please explain? Manal writes, would I please explain further the difference between sloth and torpor and a feeling of overstimulation of the senses, which may cause the same kind of lethargy? So if the senses are overstimulated, the Buddha advises guarding the senses so that the mind does not become overwhelmed with unskillful states, and that guarding the senses is involving both making intelligent choices about when to withdraw from being involved in paying attention to too much stimulation. And it also means being mindful to know when craving or aversion are getting triggered, or any other unwholesome state is getting triggered. So this thing of, as Manal mentions, feeling overstimulated, this is too much, I'm in danger of losing my mindfulness. And then one can step back. And it can mean like physically going away from a situation that's too noisy, too bright, or too exciting. Or it could just mean becoming quiet for as long as it takes. So even in the middle of a room where there's, or even in the middle of a party, or the middle of some kind of a social environment, if somebody just withdraws and becomes quiet, in that way, if your friends are sympathetic, they'll give you the space to just withdraw like that, withdraw within yourself for as long as it takes to get recentered. So that's wise. And I think the kind of need, or the pull to go for seclusion is not the same thing as sloth and torpor. Sloth and torpor is laziness. So the sense that one really the best example is for somebody who frequently needs to have a lie down, again, it's because of my age. Memories come back from my childhood. So when my mom was elderly, she enjoyed what you would call a toes up. Do you know that expression? So frequently during the day, as she was getting very advanced in her years, she needed to lie down and have a toes up to refresh the body. So in that case, it's like what's necessary for health, for a balanced life. But it's also true that seeing the danger of weakness in the body, that one would make a conscious effort to have a certain amount of activity, to have a certain amount of exercise, to don't only just sit around and take naps all day long, but have a certain amount of moving about, having exercise in order to keep the balance of the body. Because I see the danger in that. What to do when okay. So I'm going to go to a different one. Chintana asks, what to do when the fingers and back become unreliable and sleep gives relief, is lying about unskillful. So in the case of illness, I think there is a different answer than in the case of a person who's not ill. So if you are on a long meditation retreat, and if your health is generally good, I believe that it's advisable to make the effort to stay with sitting posture until the back of the body is too painful, then go to the standing posture or the walking posture to try and push yourself, make as much effort as you can to stay upright and to try to take the lying down posture only when it's really necessary to do so. This is while you're on retreat. But if you're doing, say, driving and you feel drowsy, then you better take a nap because it could be unsafe. If you're on a meditation retreat and you doze off during your retreat, it's not dangerous. But if you are in danger otherwise, then it can be dangerous. I do know people who, because of injury, were obliged to do most of their practice in the lying down posture because through injury they were not able to stay sitting. And in that case, they made exceptional efforts to keep their alertness and not be overcome by drowsiness just because they were lying down. The teacher, Charlotte Catherine, gives the example when she had a long recuperation from an injury. She was lying on her back most of the time. She would, while lying on her back, she would raise one arm and keep her arm in an upright posture. So even though the body had to be in a lying down posture, she was keeping her arm in a sitting posture just for the purpose of staying awake and not falling asleep. I think that's a good example of somebody who's really dedicated to wakefulness and who's making a strong effort to discover a way not to be overcome by drowsiness, even though there was both the injury and quite a lot of pain and medication and other things that made it difficult. So do your best and then use the lying down posture when you must. Richard, why do we have to meditate and release the mind of the 5 hindrances if, according to the Buddha, nothing is worth to attach to, not even the pursuit of happiness in the 6th sense, the mind? This has to do with making a skillful distinction between sensual pleasure and what could be called the happiness of enlightenment, because it is said that Nibbana is the happiest of all states. So this accomplishment of Nibbana is not something that you can get by reaching for it and grabbing it and accumulating a set of accomplishments, like you sort of build up your castle of meditation or your fortress of meditation. And when you get to the pinnacle of your achievement, then you have reached the goal and you can grab onto the gold ring or the prize of Nibbana. That's not really what Nibbana is about. Nibbana is about letting go and releasing how many things you can let go of, how much craving and attachment you can let go of, how much identification you can let go of. And when as that letting go process proceeds, then there's a mutual process between clear seeing, seeing things as they truly are, and being able to let go. So the better you can see, the more it's possible to let go. The more you let go, the more it's creates the possibility of being able to see things as they are. As you go along the path, there is a kind of a wholesome chanda or a wholesome wish, the wish of a trainee to keep persisting in the path, which you need to use that wholesome wish to keep going forward. But in the end, you got to let that go. You have to let all of it go at the very end. But you need skillful motivation to keep going on the path. So letting go of the hindrances support being very deluded. The hindrances directly create mental confusion, mental wrong views that see things in a way that perpetuates going around and around on this merry-go-round of samsara. So giving up the hindrances is almost like the first step where one can discover in meditation that there's a different way of seeing things. It's the first opportunity when the hindrances are released and one has entered into a samadhi. It's a very unique, distinctive, clear opportunity for understanding and seeing clearly. However much a person has been practicing to be good, practicing to be calm, practicing to be kind, practicing to cultivate contentment, doing all of those practices without meditation, you can have a happy life and you could get a good rebirth with doing those practices. But if you feel that there's something beyond that, that this awakening, which is spoken of in the Buddhist teachings, this real freedom, this ultimate freedom from craving, ultimate freedom from the internal negativities that keep us going around and around. If you think that's possible, then meditation needs to be part of the package in order to, in a direct and visceral way, to see what all these beautiful teachings and these beautiful ideas that one may have been studying and pondering about, how it can really be realized by a person. Uh, one more question. I understand that during Satipatthana meditation, the most important Dhamma to contemplate are the 5 hindrances and how to replace them with the 7 aggregates. Yes, the Satipatthana Sutta gives a wide variety of different dhammas, different teachings taught by the Buddha. This is particularly pointed out by Bhante Sujato, that the Satipatthana is a very important collection that came, as it evolved, it came to be a kind of like an encyclopedia of meditation. And so as it was recalled and recollected by the, as the sutras were remembered and committed to becoming part of the Pali Canon, it's almost like any type of meditation, specific meditation theme or specific meditation practice got collected together and put into the Satipatthana Sutta, so that Satipatthana is a concise encyclopedia of meditation. And but within all the things in the encyclopedia, in the understanding of what the significance and the function of mindfulness is, it has been said that those two, the learning how to abandon the hindrances and how to develop the factors of awakening, are possibly the original. Some people think the original teachings, if we think there was some kind of a simplified basic core element of the Satipatthana that was the initial teaching before it got expanded. This is explained by Bhikkhu Sujato in his book called The History of Mindfulness. And it's a very valid. There's a whole chapter, this sutta that we're looking at is in the chapter on the Bojjhangas, on the factors of awakening. But that chapter in the Samyutta Nikaya gives a lot of teachings about both the hindrances and the factors of awakening, how they balance each other, how they interact, how the factors of awakening help to get out of the hindrances. And it's clearly giving those two sets as a very useful and beneficial group. I'm not going to discuss how the factors of awakening work in detail, only to say that the factors of awakening are given in a kind of a progressive sequence. So one thing leads to another. When you develop the one factor very well, then naturally the next factor will arise. When you develop the next factor very well, naturally the next factor will arise. And so the factors of awakening is sort of like a part of the gradual training that's just talking about giving a clear picture of how the different evolution of meditation, how it develops, and how wisdom develops. So we may. I will promise. I promise. I will talk further about this sutta and speak more about how to develop this the next time that I have a chance to get on this platform and to speak with you. Rand says, I've heard that there are only hindrances when the hindrances occupy the mind, preventing us from samatha vipassana. Otherwise, if we were able to reduce them considerably, then they are no longer hindrances. Yeah, that could be. If a hindrance is not manifesting itself, it might be classified as an underlying tendency. So when it's an underlying tendency, you don't work with it the same way that you would work with the hindrances because it's not present. But there is a way that the underlying tendencies can be trained. So even if the hindrance is not actively manifesting itself, you can still train the mind in order to retrain the underlying tendencies. So doing the practice of loving kindness meditation can denourish the underlying tendency for hatred and make it less likely that the hindrance of aversion will arise. This process of taking care of the underlying tendencies is sometimes neglected because you don't directly see your own progress, because those factors are outside of the domain of consciousness. You're not consciously aware. So you're retraining your subconscious, but you're not consciously aware of the training. You can only notice later on by inference that when there's a trigger, that those tendencies don't spark up again in the same kind of way if you've been training them. But definitely the practice of loving kindness, cultivating morality, developing right view, and all of the wisdom practices are actually developing reflecting about the three lakhana, about the actual nature of reality, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. All of that work does reduce the underlying tendencies. When the hindrance has arisen within meditation and is blocking you from being able to settle and connect with your object of meditation or the theme of meditation, and preventing having the experience of a stabilized meditation practice, then you have to work with it in a different way. If you can learn how to really see through the hindrances when they arise, so you're not the least bit disturbed, upset, or concerned when a hindrance comes up. And so then, like, hatred comes up and you say, oh, there you go again. I see you, hatred. And you're not strengthening the hatred by starting to worry, say, oh, why am I so hateful? Oh, this horrible situation, and then start proliferating about your hatred. That then you're, in a way, like by making an unskillful effort with it, you're actually feeding the enemy. But if you just, kind of like in this, with a very simple kind of mind, if you just with compassion, you just see when the hindrance has arisen and it's active, you see it, and then you may be able to, when you're doing mindfulness, you may be able to just see, there it is, it's there, and then later it's gone. So you see the arising and you see the disappearing. And when you're practicing with right effort, including your time of contemplating and thinking about it outside of the meditation cushion, you might be doing a lot more active thinking about your problems. Like if you really hate somebody and it's plaguing you day and night, then you're going to do some serious pondering to try to look at that situation in a different way, to reframe your experience that will get you out of that trap, and learn to look at it differently, learn to substitute kindness for hatred, learn to be aware of the danger, and develop the spiritual urgency to dispel hatred. These are all kind of like outside the realm of meditation. But if you're doing satipatthana, if you're doing mindfulness, then it may be possible just to see it for what it is. And even if the hindrance is strong and keeps coming back and is difficult to shake off, if you would be kind enough to continue, just watch and just see it for what it is. Okay, I'll tell another story on myself. There was a time when I was brand new to Buddhism, when my mind was sometimes overwhelmed with aversion in ways that could grip the mind for days on end. And I can clearly remember sitting for many hours of a long retreat with the phrase "Ahanga Vero Homi," may I be free of hatred, may I be free of hatred, may I be free of hatred. It was just Ahanga Vero Homi, Ahanga Vero Homi, Ahanga Vero Homi, Ahanga Vero Homi. Just waiting for that hatred to be lifted. And, because of causes and conditions, there were times that I could go for, a whole hour, 2 hours, a whole day-long retreat, and hatred kept coming back. And I had to admit, like being powerless over hatred because it kept coming back. And so there's part of the work, there's the right effort work to learn how to overcome hatred in those other ways, thinking about it. But I felt like during meditation, just to say, wow, this is what it is when the mind is overwhelmed by hatred. Just simply seeing it for what it is. That was the most powerful medicine. So when it's just mindfulness needs to know what's skillful and what's not skillful. And if you don't yet know how to dispel something that's unskillful, mindfulness needs to understand it. And needs to understand, okay, that's dukkha. And then eventually, by having that kind of mindfulness, when you catch a break and the cloud of negativity is lifted, or when you discover that it's lifted, like you can get a hint about what true happiness really is. Or if then later on you have the experience that same old enemy of hatred comes back, but only lasts like 2 seconds because it doesn't have a grip on you anymore. And you can really rejoice, say, oh, hatred doesn't grip the mind anymore like it used to. Hatred just pops up once in a while and lasts a minute, or less than a minute, a few seconds. And if you know that, then you really can rejoice. Then you can have that pamoja, you can gladden the mind, because you see that you started to be able to overcome the hindrances. And when you overcome the hindrances, the mind becomes glad. And when the mind becomes glad and gains that happiness, then that happy mind is able to enter into samadhi. I think this is enough for today. We've come to a nice breaking point. So I hope that all of you can keep your hindrances trimmed back to a very manageable level, and that you will have the wisdom to overcome everything and to make progress in this path, to stay on the path. Don't stop. Keep going. Sadhu, 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 Anumodami.
We pay respect to the Dhamma Teachings with 3 bows.